So now I'm going to hand it back over to Adil, who's going to speak more particularly about his experiences during Vatel and what he's doing now, and where he's traveled to.
Thank you, Aisha, once again. And like Aisha mentioned, I'm going to just start with how my experience was at Vatel, how it helped me develop further, where did I go next, and just a little overview about my career development or my career path so far. So I basically started my MBA at Vatel, and it was a 2-year course, as I mentioned. I had the opportunity to do my first internship in Paris at one of the local hotel chains, Hotel du Roi, at Champs-Élysées. And once I was done with my internship, I came back to Switzerland. I completed my MBA. And like she mentioned a little while ago, then the world is your oyster. You can go in any direction you want, provided that you have the right attitude. And that is the most important thing in this industry. So I started with Park Hyatt in Dubai. I started as an intern. It was a 6-month internship, and Mr. Kuhlman, our internship coordinator, helped me with that internship. And I'm super grateful to him because that is where my career actually started. And so when I started my internship, it was just a 6-month program. And what I had to do is basically that was my opportunity to prove myself to the hotel and to the management that as a Vatelian, as a former Vatel student or alumni, I have what was needed for the job. Which basically was my period of, like you would say, probation. So once I finished my internship, the hotel offered me a job at Park Hyatt as sales and marketing coordinator. And I started working there with a lot of enthusiasm. I knew this was my time to learn and grow and be with a brand which was reputable and which was well known across the globe. Once I got to the point where I started receiving offers from elsewhere, like we've mentioned earlier, that this industry gives you a lot of opportunities, and not just that, it is an opportunity to travel as well. And then I received an offer from the Ritz Carlton in Saudi, in Jeddah. And it was a very attractive offer in terms of my career growth, because at Park Hyatt Dubai, I was still a coordinator, but here I was offered a position of an assistant manager. So obviously, Ritz-Carlton being also one of the pioneers in the hospitality industry, and I could still continue with the same department that I was working at, the sales and marketing department. I took that opportunity. So I moved to Saudi, I moved to Jeddah. It was a good learning experience. It is still a good learning experience because the industry and the country only started to open up. The opportunities only started to rise, and there was so much that this country has to offer that was not known to the rest of the world. So being part of something which is only started to begin and being part of this revolution was something very attractive to me. I started as an assistant manager, corporate sales at the Ritz-Carlton, and I believe in the first 8 months of my employment, I was given the opportunity to be promoted to the corporate sales manager position that I have been at for past 6 to 7 months. For some of you who do not understand what corporate sales is about, I'll just give you a little overview about that as well, so that does not confuse you too much. Now, corporate sales is actually, as a sales and marketing employee, our job is obviously to market and sell the product, which is the hotel. At corporate sales, what you do is basically you go and meet corporate accounts, or you would say companies, which are under under an organization. For, let's say, example, like what Aisha mentioned a little while back, Swiss Bank. Now, Swiss Bank obviously comes under an industry of banking, but as a corporate sales, I would approach Swiss Bank and ask them the possibilities of them having a contract with the Ritz-Carlton, wherever or whenever they would need accommodation, they would send their colleagues, employees, or their VIPs to the Ritz-Carlton. So basically, I work hand in hand with banks, airlines, aircraft manufacturer, fashion brands, Louis Vuitton, a lot of fashion brands actually, that I work hand in hand to bring them to the Ritz-Carlton every time they're in town. So that's just a little bit of an overview about my experience with the Ritz Carlton, my experience with Park Hyatt, and my experience with Vatel. Okay, I see a question. Aisha, can you just read a bit loud because I cannot?
Sure.
Thank you.
Why did you choose to do the MBA instead of going straight to work after the Bachelor?
Well, the reason I chose to go for MBA because I felt like after bachelor's, if I take too long doing my work or working somewhere, I would get a hang of it. And then going back to master's, going back to the class again, going back to the education again, would somehow make me rusty. So I wanted to finish the entire process, which is bachelor's, master's, and then go to work. Already we get our little bit of experience doing our internships. So if in bachelor's, if you go out for 2 to 3 internships, you've already got the experience that you need to understand and realize where does your interest lie. So if I take another 2 to 3 years just trying to find where my interest lies, then it's just going to hinder and slow the process of succession, or slow the process of career development. Since I was done with my master's, I think that is another reason I got my promotions so fast, because the hotels, they knew that the guy has already done his master's, he's not going to stop and go elsewhere to continue his master's or go for further studies. So that is the reason I went straight into master's after my bachelor's.
But I think also with the MBA, you got promoted quite quickly. I mean, it helped. You've been doing this, since you finished your studies, have climbed from as coordinator to corporate sales in 2 years' time. So that's quite quick.
Yeah, like I mentioned, actually the 2 years also include my 6-month internship. So if you take that aside, the 6 months internship, I became a manager from a coordinator in 1.5 years, which is basically very swift and very fast succession. And like you mentioned, MBA played a huge role in that, because MBA helped me develop my personality, my way of communication, my confidence when it came to presentations, public speaking, all of it. So it is a mix of everything.
Mm-hmm. I know also when I finished the MBA program at Vatel, Switzerland, Mr. Kuhlman found me my first job, because I really wanted to stay in Switzerland to improve my French. So he found me a position as reservations agent, I was a little bit disappointed. It was a bit low coming out of an MBA, but I took it because I was stationed in an area where I could use German and French, which were the 2 languages that I learned during my studies at Vatel. And after 4 months' time, I was promoted to reservations manager. And after another 4 months, I was assistant of sales and handling all the reservations for group events and individual clientele. So it does help to do an MBA to move up the ladder much faster.